So, what is it? Schools excelling through National Skill Standards Education. I'm not going to go through the history of it completely. It was designed around 1994 or so, 95.
There was a grant in 93 and it was released in 95, I think.
Okay.
The first level 1, level 2 is 96.
And so it's like I said the other day that in the beginning, these documents was created that the student had to do it all, and if they didn't get anything out of it. So that's why Mr. Houston's committee, we put things in modular format, so it was more transferable, also more effective for different geographical locations within the United States or wherever that, I mean, it can be overseas as far as that's concerned. So a lot of issues there. I think our outlook should be something like to prepare our student to be an effective and efficiently trained to be able to enter the world of work in a global marketplace. Not necessarily just in this country. We've got companies that contract work overseas in Canada, Mexico all the time. So it's not about just the end result is not just about our individual geographical location where we reside or that student resides. It needs to be opened up where that student has an opportunity to be a productive citizen wherever they choose to go. And that kind of gives you, I'm not much of a slide reader. I believe that you all can read. And this is Nicole's slide presentation that she put together it might even be found on the website as far as that's concerned. It's just not in slide presentation mode, but all this information is there. So one of the most important things here is to understand that it is guidelines for welding training. It is not a curriculum. And like I talked about the other day, I'm not bashing any one developer of curriculum, but we believe that you as welding educators should be able to choose whatever welding curriculum that works best for you. There's many that sell it. There's many that develop and sell it. There's some that gives it away for free, and there's some that that they probably run these programs and they don't even have a curriculum to follow. I think what's pretty special is what we've seen in the last few years is that some of the publishing companies have incorporated all this sense requirements into their curriculum. And that should, well, no, it shouldn't. It will make your life much easier. They want accountability, they want data, and articulation on a large scale. They want a nationally recognized credential, and that is a quote from Perkins' language, not only for the student, but for the instructor as well as the program. We want to align. They want to align secondary and post-secondary education. Hence, since level 1, since level 2. Here it is. Lead to an industry-recognized certification. Now, I just want to point this out. How many of you still have tech prep in your states? Our tech prep's gone. It was cut. No tech prep anymore. That's just FYI. Won't charge you any extra for that. So, well, how does it benefit your school? Well, it's a competency-based standard, and it requires, provides minimum requirements for a welding program, in a modular format. Now, the most important word there to me is minimum. It's like nobody died and left us to be God to tell you exactly what you're going to do, and you can't do any more than that. We just simply, one of the great things that Steve done was he brought in experts from industry to let us know, and not just bring them in to hear what they have to say. They are active and serve and do tasks in the committee. So we've got industry experts letting us know what they want the outcome to be when that student leaves us and goes to them. It makes sense because it makes their life a lot easier. It also provides educators with an instructional guideline, something to follow. So you're not flying from the seat of your pants on any given day. And then it also includes several things here that you're going to get as well. The school locator down here at the bottom, if you go to that website, just go to aws.org, click on education at the top, and then from the education page you can click on Sense, and you can get, hopefully, all the information that you need to know about Sense. There's a school locator on there as well. So Jimmy's not in here, but Jimmy that was sitting over there earlier teaches in Louisiana. If I wanted to get a hold of Jimmy, like if I get back at school and a month goes by and I think to myself, I didn't get Jimmy's card and I've got this question. If he's a Sense school, it's going to be on there, on the locator. So find it. All of his contact information is going to be on there. So it's not like we've got to, call information and try to find out where he is. That information is all there. Changes. Modularization is probably one of the biggest changes. Would you agree?
Yes.
And we're giving you a choice of implementation approach. In other words, if you want to do the required modules, which you must do, and just one welding process, then that's your choice. If you have the time and can get through the whole entire thing, then we believe that's just going to benefit your student more. But there's no more all or nothing is basically the thing. Because some of us don't have our students long enough to get through that whole entire. Now, this down here tells you that modularization level 2 would be released in 2010. Well, we have to have a target date. And so whenever this slide presentation was put together, that was our target date. It has been turned over to David, and we've got some testing stuff that we've got to do. So David's saying by February next year, right? So February next year is our timeline. It's no longer a target anymore. It's a timeline, or we fire David. It's just that simple. So.
February 2012?
Yeah, February 2012. This is just some of the documents that go together. The EG documents on the right is the guide for the training personnel. This one over here is the specification. It's kind of like a qualification document and a certification document, if you understand what I'm talking about. Now, one of the most important and exciting things about this slide that I'm about to do, and I wish I could click a button and it just disappear, was this all goes away. There is no more level 3. Okay? Anybody in this room, just a question, anybody in this room know an expert welder? That's a question. No? You know one? Good. That's good. I know none. I know none.
You mean one that was certified to level 3?
No. I mean, I want to know if anybody knows any welder that's an expert welder. In all the, not just in one process, I mean the whole, well, we cover shielded metal arc, gas tungsten arc, gas metal arc, flux core, cutting. Does anybody know an expert in all that? I ask that question all the time, and I'm just saying if you know one, I'd like their contact information so I can get their autograph, because that's really important to me. Because I know none. This is a very, very bad word with me, expert. When I've heard it all week. We can be subject matter experts, you know. I don't have a problem about that. Some people get called to court all the time about an issue. That's a subject matter expert, or so-called a subject matter expert. But how in the world can they say that when you get finished with this, that you're now an expert welder? Sell that to somebody. See how much you get paid for that. Okay, kind of a flow chart. And notice that we provide all these. Actually, you provide that, but we're going to help you with that. and also, well, I'll wait. And then this right here is all you. We don't want anything to do with your curriculum. We don't say, well, we're going to sell you this curriculum, but, you know, if you buy it, you got to buy all revisions of it. We believe that's on you. You write what you want. You're the instructor, you're running that program. Who are we to tell you what your syllabus should contain or what it shouldn't contain? Lesson plans. We can post things on the web that can help you with lesson plans, but we're not going to write the lesson plan for you. Write the lesson plan that works best for you. Remember what I said about that listing of items yesterday that needed to all lesson plans needed to have that entire list? And I told you my opinion at the bottom. It needs to say, how did it work? Did it work? Was it a failure? Do you need to change some things? Whatever the case may be. Your materials. Now, within the Sense document, you're going to, or within the Sense documents, you're going to be asked to weld on, you're going to have to flux core on carbon steel. So we're pretty much telling you that you're going to do flux core and you're going to do carbon steel, right? But we don't care what color the welding power source you use or what name brand of wire you put in there, if that makes any sense. Pardon the pun, but... Yes?
Exams.
Exams, over here.
Can you elaborate on the exams just a bit? First, let me tell you, the reason I'm here is because of the requirements for your certification. And right now we use NOCTI at the end of the year. And
okay, now...
we have an exam at the end of the year.
Sure.
It's not working for me.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm here.
Okay.
But these exams, is this an exam at the end of the year? Is this some exams that periodic? How does it work?
Great question. Great question, because we have both. Now, for level 1, we have both. And we're in the process of doing exams for level 2. So when we're finished with that, we'll have both. for level 1 and both for level 2. There will be both exams for each individual process or each individual module except for one in level 1. And every one that we require evaluation from, there's an exam. So how I do it, I'm not going to tell you how you do it. What I do is, when we cover shielded metal arc, for example, in level 1, we take the exam for level 1. Okay, and we'll get more. There's a slide on there that Steve was touching on, and it's going to help you when you see that slide, and you'll see what we expect. Also, there is a 50-question we call it a TSA. Some people call it an end-of-course exam. TSA is a technical skills attainment test that Perkins requires. Some people call it end-of-course exam. Some people might call it other things that I've never heard of. It really doesn't matter, but it's an evaluation tool that you're talking about that you use NOCTI at the end of the school year, and what they're doing is they're measuring student attainment. That's what it's all about, right? Wrong. It's all about money. That's what it's all about. Because we do need an end-of-course exam or something to evaluate attainment, but what happened was everybody saw it coming from Perkins. Everybody read Perkins, and everybody saw it coming from Perkins. And I think it's next year that 100%, maybe it's next year, that 100% of all students will be tested. They started out very small and gave you time to try to find a good end-of-course exam or a TSA. And so the first year, you had to test 25% of your students. The next year was 50. Then it was 75. And they're going to get it up there and to the point where 100% of your students must take the TSA, the end-of-course exam that you're talking about. That's
your students for you and I.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, right, completers. So if you teach high school and you have juniors and seniors, it's the ones that's been in there for 2 years. Okay? Now, I do sense over a 2-year period. Okay, because I can't cover it all in 1, but I can cover it all in 2. But whenever I get through with the process, we take that exam, and we'll get to that slide in a little bit. Now, on top of each process having a written test, we also have a 50-question test that the questions have come from those module tests directly, and that is the TSA, or the end-of-course exam. Now, Skills USA and many, NOCTI, Skills USA, many jumped on the bandwagon, and Skills USA, and I'm not knocking Skills USA at all, but they offered the end-of-course exams or the TSAs for $5 in the beginning. Remember that? And so then what did they do last year? They raised it to 10. Same test. Still, they put it out online the year before last, but they doubled the price because everybody knows that that's where they're going to make their money. Because, why? Because 100% of your completers have to take that test according to Perkins. Okay? Does that make sense? We're giving it to you for free if you're a Sense School. So you go back and tell your administrator, American Wellness Society, through AWS Sense program, is offering a TSA that is zero cost to that student or to that school.
How is a TSA administered?
Well, they should be, in my opinion, administered online. And also, in my opinion, they should be administered without us in the room. I don't want to see the test. We have a person, and I'm just giving you my experience, we have a person on staff that's in charge of all TSAs and all programs. And she proctors all tests. So I'm not allowed to go down with my students when they take the TSA at the end of the school year. I don't want to, because I don't want anybody to say, okay, well, hell, you've seen the test, you're going to teach to the test. The fact of the matter is, if it's a good attainment test, it should come from the modules, the test questions that you just went through that they covered. How?
I think that's the problem, though. Some of these TSAs are not good tests. So have you had a chance to look at this one?
We do it. We use it.
Have you looked at the exam, the TSA? You said you're not in there whenever they missed it. Have you looked at it?
We wrote it.
Okay, you wrote it, but I didn't. Do I have the opportunity to look at it?
You know, I don't, that's a good question. But here's what I can tell you. I can assure you that every question on the TSA comes from the module test within the Sense written exams. In other words, every student is going to be exposed to every test question, unless they're absent that day or whatever the case may be. Does that make sense? How can you ever, well, Mr. Thies is in the room now, so now the level of intelligence went up tremendously because he's done some work at the college level down in Texas, but this is just my opinion. A student never should be tested when it counts like this for data on something that they've never heard anything about. NOCTI test, there's some questions on there that your kids haven't ever been exposed to. Well, how can you test them on that? That's my question. You shouldn't. So what I'm telling you is that these exams, every single process, welding process and cutting process and some other modules except for one, we'll get to that in a minute, has a written exam. And that TSA, that 50-question TSA, those 50 questions are taken from all those exams. And they appear the same written form exactly like you saw them back when you taught shielded metal arc or safety or whatever.
Just to clarify, you're saying your state accepted the Sense final exam?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
What did you say TSA stood for?
Technical skills attainment.
Will that be available online next spring?
Yes.
Zero charge and
Yes.
contact David or?
Well, when you're a Sense school, they're going to give you a Sense participation code number. Is that what you call it, David?
They don't even need it, they'll just be able to get it automatically.
Okay.
All
So,
Sense schools- I'll answer questions about it after.
like right now, I can punch in my number, you know, on the locator, and it pops up, and I can download any revisions or whatever the case may be. But yes. Okay. Does that help? Okay. That's the best I can do. Steve, can you add to that and make it more clear?
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
So a quick comment on
Yep.
how did you sell it to the state?
I'm sorry?
How did you sell this to the state?
Because,
Adopt something else?
well, before we developed this, they were using NOCTI and AWS, or excuse me, I'm sorry, NOCTI and Skills USA. And because our supervisor at DESE, at the State Department, has some common sense, and he realizes that American Welding Society should be the governing body for the Perkins program, and they said, sure. In fact, when I was on the phone with him and had him look at it for approval, he said, well, what's crazy is, and we're not trying, this conversation is not slamming ASE NATEF people in automotive either, but he says ASE NATEF requires 50% for their good. In other words, if they score 50% on their exam, that's all they need. And he asked the question, he says, so what part of your brakes does only 50% need to be functional? You know what I'm saying? So he said, absolutely. Now here comes this slide I was telling you about. There are the 9 modules of Sense Level 1. Okay? Occupational orientation, there is no test. No written test. Okay? That's where either you or a person on staff talks to them about job opportunities, writing a resume, filling out an application, various different things like that. There's no written test. Okay? So, you see this little asterisk down here that says required module for level entry welder completion plus 1 welding process module. And this is what Steve was talking about before. So required, that one, that one, that one. This one. And you have to do number 1 and number 3 and this one. Then you can pick any one of these 4 welding processes and that person gets a Sense certification for that, including that one process. Is that the best way? You want to elaborate what you said a while ago about this?
No, I just think if you keep in mind that the individual welding processes are optional and everything else is required. But I mean, you have to take one welding process.
Right, any one.
I do have one comment on the safety. If you recall, in the previous version of Sense, there was a 90%. It was 90% instead of 100.
Right here.
So the argument was, which 10% of safety is more important?
Right.
So, you know, it really kind of had to be 100%.
Now, keep in mind that these students get 3 chances to pass those written tests. Okay? If they don't pass it after 3 times, then it's not happening.
How does this pick and choose, but how does this correlate with the TSA?
Here's what I'm telling you about TSAs. I apologize. This is just proof. This is 100% proof that I'm a piss poor public speaker and can't explain my subject matter. But this is all I can tell you. You see that each one of these modules, safety, drawing, and then all 4 processes of the welding, the cutting, and the welding inspection and technology have a written test. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now what we've done is we've taken 50 questions from all those test questions and we've created a TSA, separate TSA. Now let's just see if there's any, basically how to implement it. Go online, type in the stuff, submit. Make sure that the school locator is, all the information is correct. And I'm just going to end with that one right there. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm just going to leave it alone. But with this component, we believe with this component, along with Sense, that we've put everything in place for your institution to have met all Perkins requirements. Okay? Any questions? Any other questions?